Hi there, I'm Marcus Peter for Ave Maria Radio, and today I'd like to talk to you about man having a desire for God. The Compendium of the Catechism of the Catholic Church tells us that God himself, in creating man in his own image, has written upon his heart the desire to see him. Even if this desire is often ignored, God will never cease to draw man to himself, because only in God will he find and live the fullness of truth and happiness for which he never stops searching. By nature and by vocation, therefore, man is a religious being, capable of entering into communion with God, and this intimate and vital bond with God confers on man his fundamental dignity. What the Compendium is trying to tell us is essentially what we already know, and that is that man is made for God. And because we were made for him, God in his benevolence has imprinted upon our hearts a desire for God. Every one of us has this. This is regardless of whether or not someone has received the Christian revelation. Everyone hungers for union and intimacy with God. This is the reason why, when God is not in the picture in a person's life, man will jump from pleasure to pleasure, seeking an object of the appetite that will finally fulfill. And as we talked about in the last Ave Maria moments, there are things on this earth that will never fulfill us, because there's an appetite within us that is seemingly infinite, because it is made for the infinite. We have an almost infinite appetite for the infinite God. And this God has made it so that our hearts are drawn to him. See, this is what led St. Augustine of Hippo in Book 1 of his Confessions to say, "Our souls were made like unto you, O Lord, and our hearts are restless until they rest in you." You think about the scriptures and you see that the biblical authors understood this well. Hebrews 8:10 tells us that this is the covenant I will make with the house of Israel after those days, declares the Lord. I'll put my law into their minds and write them on their hearts, and I will be their God, and they shall be my people. Now this is echoing the same promise that appears in the prophet Jeremiah and throughout the Old Testament, that God wasn't content to write these laws upon stone tablets. He wanted these laws to be written upon human hearts. And that's why you and I hunger for God. And the more we run away from God, the more we are going to realize that we are never satisfied. So as we continue to pursue wealth and pleasure and power and honor, the more we have, the hungrier we are, the less we are satisfied, the more miserable we become. St. Ambrose of Milan tells us that the commands of God are impressed in our hearts by the Spirit of the living God, and we do not read these commands as if they were recorded in ink or on tablets of stone. In our own thought, we formulate a law. There is something, therefore, like the law of God, which exists in the heart of man. God has inscribed his own love and divine law into our hearts, and he is beckoning us back to him. So today my challenge for you is very simple, which is take a good look at our lives right now. What are the desires that we have that we want to be fulfilled? Natural desires are not sinful. Inordinate attachment to these things is what is sinful. So as you and I think about our desires, are these desires subordinate to our desire in God? In other words, these things that we want, are they going to glorify God in our receiving them, or are they going to draw us further away from God? Because if they're going to draw us away from God, then the more we receive them, the less fulfilled we will be. You and I know this to be true. So think about that. Is God your truest desire? Because he's already written the desire for him in the depths of your heart. Until next time, I'm Marcus Peter.